This is Discovering the Scriptures with Dr. Peter John Parisis. Currently, I am recovering from emergency surgery. I thank you for all your prayers. We are now in Daniel chapter 2, verse 27. It is here that it helps to do the Bible study the way we're doing it. For I looked into the parsing of this verse to understand how Daniel is saying what he is about to say to the king in this verse. And I'll show you. I'm first going to try to read it for you the way the parsing shows me. And that means, how is it written in Aramaic? What are the meanings behind the words and the sayings? How are they presented? And for now, it's pretty matter-of-factly just a statement, except for one place where it's matter-of-fact, intentional, and intense. So I'll try to read it that way. Reading from the King James Bible, Daniel chapter 2, verse 27. Quote, Daniel answered in the presence of the king, and said, The secret which the king hath demanded, cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, show unto the king? Unquote. Next, go ahead and read that to you in the Young's Literal Translation. Quote, Daniel hath answered before the king and said, The secret that the king is asking, the wise men, the enchanters, the scribes, the smoothsayers, are they not able to show to the king? Unquote. Now, if we look at this in context, this is what's taking place. The king has had a dream, and he would like for it to be answered. And he called all the wise men and everyone of position who could show him the dream, tell him the interpretation in Babylon. And they could not. So he got angry and started having them killed, because he knew he needed to know this dream. And then came Daniel. Now I'm going to go ahead and read this to you in context, because this paragraph really is Daniel 2 verse 27, and it goes through Daniel 2:30. So I'm going to read it to you in context, but that's the background of this verse. God gave the dream and the interpretation to Daniel in a night vision, and now Daniel is coming before the king, as he said he would, and tell him what God has given him. Reading from the King James Bible, reading the whole thing in context, Daniel 2:27 through Daniel 2:30. Quote, Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, The secret which the king hath demanded, cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, show unto the king? But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dreams and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter, and he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes, that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Unquote. So as you can see, Daniel's giving praise about the whole thing to God from which all came. So now, let's go ahead and parse this verse out so you can see what I mean. Daniel answered. So let's look at the Aramaic word, because remember he's writing this language now. It's a PL stem, so that's a casual, and it's a participle, so you can put to be. Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, that's parse out and said, it's the same thing. Casual, to be. Continuing, the secret which the king hath demanded. That's parse out hath demanded. Same thing, PL stem, active participle. So, to be. Continuing, Cannot, let's parse that out. It's the same thing. PL, stem, participle, aspect. The wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers. Parse out that one. It's a PL, stem, participle, aspect. It's still the same. Casual, to be. Here's where it changed. Show. Let's parse that out. It's an APL stem, and that means that it is a causative conjunction. That it means to be and cause the action to be. So he caused. So can that be caused or causing? So he's a little bit more forceful with this one. He's just not stating it. Unto the king. So he's ratifying what's going on and then hits it with a grand slam. So now let's take a look and see what more we can get out of this verse. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the commentaries to see if we can draw anything more from the scripture. Now remember, as we're going along in discovering scriptures, that we only say what we see in the verse. So at any point in time I'm reading a commentary to you and I see something that is not following what we're doing, I'm going to point that out to you. So reading John Gill, I'm going to say that also in here. Here goes John Gill. Daniel answered in the presence of the king, boldly and without fear. We're not given that. We don't know if Daniel was trembling. We don't know if Daniel was without fear. And we don't know if he was bold. From what we just read, Daniel read the facts and then causally conjunctively at the end said, show the king. So we don't know if that's bold and without fear. But John Gill has wrote this down. We're not going to say that because we don't know that yet. Continuing on, and said, the secret which the king hath demanded, so he calls it, to show that it was something divine, which came from God. It could only be revealed by him, and was not found out by any art of man. So Daniel is giving God the glory for revealing this. Cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king? This he premises to the revelation of the secret, not only to observe the unreasonableness of the king's demand upon them, and the injustice of putting men to death for it, but for the discovery of the whole might appear to be truly divine, and that God may have all the glory, it being what no class of men whatever could ever have made known unto him. We do not know from this verse if Daniel was doing all that with this verse, calling out the king for killing him out. It doesn't give us that. But let's continue on. The last word rendered, soothsayers, is not used before. The Septuagint version leaves it untranslated and calls them Gerazines. And so it says that the name of a nation of people so called. But Jarkin takes them to a sort of men that was confederate with devils. The word signifies such that cut into parts, as the soothsayers, who cut up creatures and looked into their entrails, and by them made their judgment of events, or as astrologers who cut to divide the heavens into parts, and by them divide future things or determine. But this word is basically fatalist. It's men whose fate will be shown because the secret is now given to the king. So these wise men that the King Nebuchadnezzar called up, and I have left John Gill's commentary by the way, they could not give to the king what he needed. Daniel couldn't do it either. He went before God and prayed with his friends, and God through his mercy gave to Daniel the dream and interpretation. And now Daniel is here speaking to the king, reciting facts, and at the end a little bit more bold at the very end of this verse. Now you're going to have to continue on with the next verse to find out, as we parse it, what does Daniel do? How is it said? What does it mean? Is this whole thing that we're being presented for only the time period that King Nebuchadnezzar lives, or is this for us in our end times? Only time will tell as we go through the scriptures. God bless you as you continue to dive into the scriptures, and please continue to keep me up in your prayers so that I can continue on verse by verse through the entire Bible, so that all will be able to hear. The blind, the aged, the people who can't read will be able to hear Scripture and what Scripture tells us about walking with God with a better personal relationship and what is to come in our lifetime or in the future. God bless you.